Thank you, Vishal sir, for your illuminating address on ESRI's state-of-the-art programs and solutions designed to empower GIS user organizations. With that, we come to the end of session 1 of our event. I would like to reiterate my thanks to all the session speakers for their wonderful insights. Coming up next, we have a panel discussion on geospatial policies, impact, and future roadmap, where our esteemed guests will discuss and deliberate on how policy developments are paving the way for holistic development of the geospatial ecosystem. The moderator for the panel is Mr. Sreeramam GV, CEO, Neo Geoinfo Technologies, and Secretary General, AGI. For our panelists, we have Mr. Pramod Kaushik, Managing Director, Hexagon India, Mr. Rohit Kaushik, Head of Product Portfolio at Here Technologies, Dr. Aniruddha Roy, Chief Technology Officer at Genesys International, and Mr. Deven Laheru, President, ScanPoint Geomatics. I would like to invite all the panelists and the moderator to the stage, please. With this, I would like to hand over the session to Sri sir.
Hello. Thank you, Sakshi, and good afternoon, everybody. Distinguished panelists, government dignitaries, my colleagues, industry colleagues, and friends. Welcome to this panel on geospatial policies, its impact, and the future, the way forward. Right? We had been seeing a lot of talk about how the industry is going to benefit from the policies, and what are all the policies that have come up. We are all aware about the policies that were unveiled in the last year. We have seen the geospatial data policy. We have seen a drone policy, drone rules that have come up. And also we are aware that there is a draft remote sensing policy that has come up. The aim of all these policies is to free the geospatial data for the private users and to develop more and more applications. So briefly talking about the subject, though I know I have to be very quick, and probably we will try to finish this panel within half an hour, and I also apologize for keeping you from your lunch. But we have these policies, and the main question is how these policies can actually add value to the geospatial industry. And the policy itself claims that we can be a 1 lakh crore industry in the next 8 years, that is 2029 and 30. The targeted revenues in geospatial industry is about 1 lakh crores. Now, the question is how? Can we really transform this from something like about 38,000 crores industry to about a 1 lakh crore industry? This is the question, and I think we are going to address this. I'll just briefly add, we always talk about a geospatial knowledge. We talk about geospatial knowledge infrastructure, which will combine policy and the collaboration between the government and the private industry. We have the skilled manpower, we have the standards, we have geodetic infrastructure, foundation data, and finally, the leadership from the private industry. I think our earlier speakers have actually covered all of those such things like policy, collaboration of the industry as well as the government. We talked about foundation data, how that is very much required, and the government agencies are already working on this foundation data. Now, we will be talking specifically about the role the industry plays in actually making this a 1 lakh crore industry. So I'll start with my my panelists. Let me start with Pramod Kaushik. I would like to ask Pramod, Hexagon has been a lead player in geospatial data services and solutions technology. So how are you leveraging this new policies, and how you are building an infrastructure for making value, adding value to the geospatial industry?
So thanks, Sri. One thing what we have been really constantly working on is utilizing the geospatial opportunities, what is being thrown by the country to us in developing the infrastructure. As you see that we have been participating in a big way with Survey of India and the other agencies to develop the CORUS network, which is a very key fundamental infrastructure what we can develop for the country and for the industry to leverage this very accurate reference network which is being put up throughout the country. And it's a major milestone which is really going to open up, when we open up this reference network to the entire, I would say, the gamut of geospatial industry service providers, this is going to have a big multiplier effect on the economy. What's going to happen is that this is, when you want to do a mapping you're trying to do, whether you want to fly sensors through aeroplane, you're doing through the drones, you're trying to do mobile mappers and normal I would say surveys, the geo-referencing of all these, whether you take image or a lidar or data point, what you're collecting, data you're collecting, everything has to be geo-referenced, and CORUS network is going to prove to be a multiplier in this entire economy. And this multiplier effect which is going to come is going to be massive, because it's going to open up the entire gamut of services, the innovation. Startups will use it, there's the mid-sized companies, small-sized companies which are into services and would like to do a value add, want to go up in the value chain, they are going to be utilizing this in a massive way. And this is not only, we can see now some of these states have already come out with very integrated land records, tenders and the opportunities where you are going to utilize this CORUS network along with the rovers which each state government is now buying and applying services on this for survey, resurvey, and some of the topics which have been talked since morning. Everywhere this application is going to be there. And we are now seeing some of these states like Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, where all these Maharashtra, they are coming out with these opportunities where the private players are going to have good amount of say in addition to what Survey of India is trying to do based on some of the network which have been created. Other things we are also, I would say that industry we are looking at very clearly in terms of, you look at any, UP Dial 100, one very flagship project which we have done. When it is saving 10 to 12 lives a day, and this has been executed by us along with Mahindra Defense, whenever there is a call on dial 100, you are able to get a map open onto the handset of a police. Then they take the calls sitting there. 400 policemen are sitting in Lucknow. But the next PCR one, which is close to the incidents, they are able to find the map. It opens, it goes, and it tells that you're able to reach the shortest map. This is the traffic. And this is where the geospatial technology, along with the command control center, computer dispatch, is being utilized to give real value add. It's saving 10 to 12 lives a day. That's the estimate we have along with the UP police. Likewise, if you look at Mumbai Fire Brigade, one of the busiest fire brigade, deploying this technology of geospatial, using these street maps, open street maps, along with the computer dispatch and the rest of the standards which goes into entire fire to make it safe as a city is done, and the World Bank is making, they really highly appreciate, the World Bank is making a report on that. So geospatial again being used on the disaster piece, you can say. Look at the flood management. Other piece which we now realizing, the smart agriculture. In the smart agriculture, all these technologies are finding a big way, and we are participating along with other players in trying to see that how do we, the challenge which the agriculture ministry is giving is, can you forecast or can you say that when is the drought going to come? When the flood, of course, might be easy, but drought forecasting or predicting is some of the challenges which they are expecting the geospatial industry to open. Look at the smart mining. Smart mining starting from the, conceptualizing a mine, smart plan to smart operate to smart, I would say, maintain, and then monitoring all put together with all the safety standards. The geospatial is being utilized in a big way, and we are participating there to create value for the mining piece. Volume calculation, how much is there. Plus, in the smart plan itself, planning software, there are geological modules which are able to find how much is the ore inside and what's the type of ore which is there, and then how you should make it open. It takes around 3 years to start a mine, but all these technologies of doing survey, finding the volumes, all starts well before time, before you are able to take out this. Plus, some of, this entire, if you look at the forest piece, doing the survey for the forest, again, along with the Chorus network, along with other serving technologies, is helping a lot. We also on the other side in a smart plant, making a digital twin of some of these plants and facilities which are going to have the precise, I would say, calculations of the very complex geometry. You take a steel plant, you take a refinery, you take a power plant. If you're utilizing the scanning this entire plant, making a digital twin, deploying on a software and putting the real attributes and value of a plant. You don't have to go and take chances and give the training to your people sitting and taking him to the plant, versus you can do it in a control room where you are having a precise digital twin with all 0.1 mm type of accuracies of the entire complex geometry in a plant, which are inaccessible. You are able to do it using the geospatial technology, and having the every attribute of a wall or a pipe and the thickness and the entire drawing in a 3D view, you are able to do it. So all this is happening, plus some of the products like BLK Fly and ARC, which are having AI and ML built into it. These are not, we don't call them as drones, but these are sensors which are on a vehicle which goes through, and if they find there is something coming in the way, they take their own turn and give a 3D view on a control center on live. You can find out what's the complex area, like even on the security part. This can be done or being utilized, giving the 3D view of what's happening on our borders. That's a lot of defense applications which are there. That was from my side.
Thank you, Pramod, for briefing the kind of inputs that Hexagon is actually giving in various fields of application. Aniruddha, I would like to specifically ask about, after these new policy guidelines have come, there is a lot of freedom about data collection by Indian companies, and there is a possibility of using cloud as a platform. You can actually put the data on the cloud, which was restricted earlier. There have been many policies, and now all those policies are done away with. So how is Genesys utilizing this new policy, and how it is going to impact your business, and what are the solutions that you are building further on top of these new policies?
Okay. Your views. Yeah, thanks, Sri. So basically, in Genesys, we have been doing a lot of data content creation work around the world for various customers. The fact is that when we found this policy, which is 2021, which are basically the restrictions have been removed. So whether it is a data sharing policy, or whether it is a artificial intelligence strategy paper, or whether it is something on the cloud, multiple policies have been there. I could see from the the literature way back from 2012 till date. The restrictions which were there, that as a geospatial industry within India, we were not in a position to map the country freely because of the rules and regulations and bylaws. The government regulatory bodies were finding it difficult to, and they were taking more than required time, and there were a lot of delays in the projects. So once these restrictions have come out, negative lists have been published. While we are speaking, let me tell you that we have completed, after policy release in February 15, 2021, close to 1 lakh line kilometer of street view imagery across the country in many of the leading cities. We have been doing these data collections. We also have planned, and that we launched in 1st December 2021, a program which has been launched by CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, that as a industry leader on content creation, we will have our own Genesys map content creation. And we have taken a lead of creating top 100 cities digital twin, which is urban spatial digital twin. While all that work has been going on, when we spoke to our customers, the fact is that unlike West, in India, there are plenty of data which is already available with urban, with municipal, with Nagar Panchayats. Everybody needs a problem-solving approach, that how it can solve my governance problem, how we can offer the citizen-centric services in a better way. So if you see the policy, very clearly it is telling that the data and the technology are the transforming agents. And only after we create the rightful data, that will actually drive the market, and then technological innovations can happen. So as a pilot, what we have done, we have created a digital twin. We developed n number of use cases on top of it. We have started talking with a lot of startups and these specialized groups who can address and rightfully use this data in the areas of urban planning, in the areas of 5G rollout, in the areas of disaster management, in the areas of utility management. And that is how we are gearing up and the process is on.
Okay, so there is a lot of initiation from Genesys in creating database on your own for digital twins, and probably that would be seen very soon as a product.
Yeah, so the content has been created, and you're coming to a second question, which is about the cloud. Still, I can say you that we have been talking to a lot of government departments. The awareness is still lacking within the government, and they are hesitant that we should use cloud as a platform. So majority of them are still feel that on-premises secured environment is very good. I personally spoke to Ministry of IT, very senior officials. They told there is as such no restrictions, and there are three kind of cloud infrastructure which is there, which is a government community cloud, there is a public cloud, and there is a private cloud. These are empaneled ones. So what we did as a pilot, we have chosen the, the likely players who are in the cloud infrastructure, right from data processing, that how our interoperable data can perform in the cloud environment. We have done all the beta testing, and we are through with our results. So we know how that can be leveraged very efficiently. We also know that we can scale up and scale down our operations based on the need and as the data comes through. So back-end processing has all been done. It is only the creation of awareness which needs to be done within the government, that yes, as per the approved government policy of the cloud, the government agencies can freely use it based on the policies.
Yeah, thank you, Aniruddha. We'll come back with more questions once the other two speakers are also completing their initial thoughts. So let's go in the same sequence to Mr. Rohit Kaushik. Again, I'll come back to the same question. Here as a lot of play in cloud-based solution providing, and how these new policies have impacted your business, and how is here planning to contribute more to the geospatial industry in India?
Sure. So first of all, on the impact, I can just share a quick background. The way mapping was being done in India for last several years. So earlier, you had to take multiple approvals from the government, be it, the international coastline from Survey of India. Then, if you have to do the field data collection, you have to go to Ministry of Defense, take the approval from the government on data collection. Then, you have to go and intimate all the local and state police authorities to collect the data. Once you collect the data, then you also have to go to MOGS and verify or validate all these data. So it used to take a lot of time. And imagine a situation that you capture a new ATM or a hotel, and you have to wait for maybe 6 to 9 months to make sure that it gets published. So based on these policies, I think most of these things are already removed. And now, maps can be published with certain set of accuracy, what most of the companies are currently doing. In terms of air technology, so we already, capture length and breadth of this country in last 12 years or so. So we do have comprehensive map across the India, and it is not only, the street road network or a point of interest, but there are a lot of other details available. So in terms of what we are doing today, we're working with multiple government agencies in India, and we will continue doing so. Mr. Pramod was mentioning Dial 100, and Here Technologies is, the mapping solution provider for Dial 100. We are also working with government of Rajasthan, in which, they are trying to create multiple applications and also trying to bring together multiple government agencies, right? So For example, the healthcare or the education and all these government data, whatever they have in Rajasthan, they want to, create one uniform platform which can be used by the citizen as well as the different government agencies. Last year, late last year, Department of Tourism launched an application with that unified platform in Rajasthan. So we will continue doing that with the government agencies. In terms of how here can help, so Survey of India recently invited all the industries to find out or explore how best we can work together with the government, and we will be happy to support that. Not only Survey of India, but also the other government industries. The another important component is the skill set, right? Earlier speaker was talking about the skill set or the certification and all that. The problem today is there is no very specific certification or the courses or the skill set. Everybody, if you ask any young guy, nobody will tell you that I want to do masters in geoinformatics or I want to become these kind of survey certification, because that's the knowledge gap, right? And here Technologies is also working in that direction. So recently we set up a center of excellence in University of Petroleum and Energy and Studies in Dehradun, in which what we are doing is we are training the students in UPS from a practical knowledge perspective, right? How to read the satellite imagery, what do you mean, by all these analytics, so that at their education level, they know in terms of, what these mapping, location, technology, all these solutions are. And we will continue doing that. Similarly, we're also working with Startup India, and here Technologies, whatever map we created in India for last 12 or 15 years, we do have the APIs and SDKs available, which to all these startups, student community, we have extended the use, which is almost a kind of a free usage. There is a certain limit, but that's pretty high, so you don't need to pay it till the time you're not running into a very commercial set of business. That we will continue to support. In addition to all these things, we do have a significant presence in India, be it from a map creator perspective or our state of engineering. And we are, as I mentioned, with this forum, I'm very happy to support any government department or the industry who want to collaborate with us. We are here. Look forward for these 2 days.
Thank you, Rohit. And I would like to add one thing here, like Lieutenant General Girish Kumar ji has said. We had been trying very hard with the Ministry of Skill Development, NSDA, NSDC. As AGI, we have tried to develop a skill council, and the work is still under process. In the meanwhile, we have signed an MOU with NIGST, that is of Survey of India. We are trying to impart some courses, and we have invited invited all our members to actually participate and impart trainings as a part of NIGST. I think it will be a great thing for us to collaborate and understand what you're doing with your skill development modules, and then we can actually work together.
Sure,
Thank
makes sense.
you. Let me come to the last speaker on this panel, Mr. Deven Laheru. I would like to specifically ask you, you have developed a product for the Indian market, and I think it's a typical example of what we are talking about, make in India, and you have encountered probably some issues, and with this, and we would like to know what are the things that you have faced and how you have developed the product, as well as what is the roadmap with respect to these new policies and guidelines that have come.
Yeah, thanks, Sri. Specifically mentioning that what we have developed is something typically government is envisaging as a part of its Make in India initiative. So I would say that a lot of talk is going around, specifically after this policy, about how private and public enterprises should collaborate under PPP model. In fact, if you look at ScanPoint Geomatics, we are one of such example of early PPP model which kind of got implemented in India way back somewhere in early 2000, where we co-created this indigenous product, integrated GIS and image processing software, along with Space Application Center, ISRO. So when we did that, the entire intellect of scientific intellect of ISRO, along with the software development capabilities of the ScanPoint, is given or kind of a true global product coming out of India uh, over a period of 10 to 12 years of rigorous product development journey, and a lot of input which has gone in from scientific community, a lot of input which has gone in from academia, as well as the experience that we could gain out of dealing with various Indian customers. So something which probably we are talking a lot about it post February 2020, or about a year back, I say 21, is something which was envisaged. Until today, that relationship continues in a similar fashion, where I would say the research capability that exists in the government domain or a kind of prowess that exists in private enterprises, how these two things can come together to really create something which we can proudly call as uh, out of Indian stable. Coming back to how we can make use of the current policy and the way forward, I would like to put the opportunity in the two different compartments here. One compartment is basically multiple of policy level initiatives which government as a facilitator or enabler has initiated, be it a geospatial policy, be it a space policy, be it remote sensing policy or a drone policy. What it has done is it has drastically reduced the entry barrier for any of the new private sector people or enterprise or a startup to enter into this domain. While geospatial policy allows people to create a data using various model of surveying on the ground and under the ground, below the ground rather, with lot more granularity. At the same time, space policy allows lot of private sector enterprise to use the available infrastructure of ISRO for launching their spatial purpose or kind of a specific purpose sensors or a satellite. So when you put both the things together, what it has done is it has basically created an ecosystem where high resolution data sets at a required frequency, or outside a very, very rapid frequency is available. So velocity of the data is what is needed for a very, very specific application. Say, for example, you take an disaster management. If I'm getting a data which is probably kind of I'm getting on almost on a daily basis with required resolution, it can really create an opportunity for a different level of application to be created, which can go directly to the hand of end citizen. When I talk about second part of this opportunity is the evolution of a lot of different technologies. So when you talk of democratization of data, one is the policy part, another is the technology piece. Whether it's a cloud, whether it's a big data, whether it's a kind of integration of GIS with IoT, AI, ML, what it has done is the data which is getting created, enabled by such kind of policy initiatives, can really go into the hand of an end user in the way he or she wants it to consume. It is no more a domain of very, very specialized scientific community where GIS ready, or I would say GIS, someone who is very skillful at GIS only will be able to exploit such kind of data sets. So when in that initiative, what we are trying to pitch in as a platform and solution provider is to create a platform which is able to get all the kind of different level of data sets into the platform, and then using different kind of all this technology, give it as a service, whether it's a data as a service, whether it is a processing as a service, but give something which is consumed or required by the end user the way it looks at. Technology can be great, but how do we actually make use of the technology to address the end customer need, be it a business, be it a individual consumer, be it a farmer, be it a citizen who is supposed to be kind of getting input around the likely disaster which may or is likely to something which is likely to come up very soon, whether it's in form of some sort of a forecast. That is the entire kind of framework. That is what we are trying to work upon, and we have got some bit of initial good traction with a lot of departments around it. Another thing that we have kind of tried to do, and where we think is going to be the kind of future, is to work with the early stage startups, work with the people directly with the incubation center in respective education institute, be it a private university, be it a large university, where we are able to handle them in terms of kind of giving them an idea of how to effectively utilize this technology to kind of fructify their ideas. There are people who are there with a lot of ideas. They actually get into a lot of startup ecosystem, not kind of trying to uh, tell a different story about startup ecosystem, but today's scenario, a startup ecosystem has got a lot of different dynamics where at times a very genuine ideas available at a very raw stage, it's probably hijacked in a little different way. And then it gets into a kind of realm where it loses its actual relevance of the kind of impact which is supposed to create on the society or a country at large. So we are trying to address this in a little different way by collaborating with them at a very early stage, give them the required mentorship, mainly to create a product which will really create an impact on the society and country at a large, rather than getting into how to pick up the product and create only a valuation story around it. So that's the kind of difference that we are trying to make. And we have got a good inroads into few institutes where they really like this concept on how geospatial technology in combination with other technology can really help solve some of the real problems and then scale it up beyond India and even abroad at a given point in time. So that's what something that we have found very exciting, specifically after this a new policy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your overview about how the products should actually be used to implement solutions, because whatever is the value that we are talking about, the value is realized only once a project is implemented and actually the billing is done and the money is collected. Like we talk about in services and projects people. Like I had an organization, we are into services and projects execution. So till the time the project is successfully implemented and it is implemented to the benefit of the people, I mean, it has no value, whatever we talk about on the numbers here. And similarly, one more point that you have actually said and that brings to my mind is that I think the industry today needs to collaborate more and more with academia as well as the startup companies and probably support them to come up with more and more products, solutions. I mean, it may not be something which we as a company develops on our own, but it could be something which is in collaboration with a startup company. We can actually seed them, fund them. You can actually help them grow into a good business. That's definitely an opportunity. I think there are a lot of startups which are working in this. And AGI is collaborating with the startups as well, as and we can become a common platform for the geospatial companies to collaborate with these startups. Okay. Having said that, I just want to ask Pramod, because today we are talking about Make in India, we are talking about a lot of rovers with the CORS in place, with land record projects happening. There is a lot of requirement for a huge amount of rovers to be deployed in the country. You have any plans for manufacturing in India? Because it has been touched upon, and I think that is something which can contribute greatly to this geospatial industry.
Let me tell you, it's easy to say yes. I feel like saying yes straight away, but it's very difficult to implement on ground. But we have a very strong intent we have 5 businesses within Hexagon, and each with varying degree of requirement based on the Make in India and Made in India, the emphasis coming from the government. It's, I think, imperative sooner or later we are looking at how do we really start making things in India. We are making some progress. I cannot comment specifically on rovers because it requires a lot of capital investment, plus the type of factory you are supposed to set up, it requires good amount of training as well. And these are fairly sophisticated equipments to manufacture it, to test it, and then, roll it out in the country. But to some level, where the SKD kits can come and we can assemble, we are thinking of doing it in one or the other businesses, and very soon we'll be launching that piece.
Thank you. Hopefully we will be seeing some rovers being manufactured here, and that will give a lot of impetus to the overall growth of the industry. One last question from my side. Anybody in the panel could probably answer this. the policy also talks about blue economy. I mean, we are not really talking about blue economy here, or in any discussion, we don't really talk about blue economy. We talk about deep sea mining and Sagarmala kind of projects. Are we doing anything in this? Any of you are looking at the blue economy?
So as Genesys, as I told you, that we always believed that we should go for, the real difference which the policy has made, and let me bring a context to the whole thing. That the whole thing is all about your software was there, your hardware was there was a network which was available. The data part, it has to be accurate, and the 3D has been allowed by the Indian industry, who can do it very accurately with the modern surveying tools. Now, with respect to 3D, it is very important that whether it is in the terrestrial or whether it is in the marine or whether in the riverine environment, the accurate digital elevation model is very, very important. And that's what the key is, that how we can leverage the modern tools and technologies to create very accurate maps and models. So fundamental to both the things are the digital elevation model. When it comes to blue economy, there has been an impetus by the Ministry of Fisheries, Department of Fisheries, that in the lines of agriculture, why can't the fisheries can also be developed? And with the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister that we need to achieve this 5 trillion economy by 2025, it has been brainstormed within the Ministry of Fisheries Department that this fisheries part and the role of geospatial in the fisheries has got a big role, and that should be nurtured. We as Genesys, what we did, we engaged with the department and we created a pilot. And there were multiple problem statements which has been given to us. So first and foremost, how can you find out from the fresh water body that what is the depth of the water body, basically the fresh one I'm talking about? What is the conducive atmosphere with respect to the chemical properties, temperature, humidity the fishes survive? How can you take into account the local geostatistics and the demography? So multiple parameters have been taken, a decision model has been built, and we found out that there is no indirect way to find out from the remote sensing technology the exact depth. So what we have done in our test bed, we have put a boat with an echo sounder to find out what is the depth, and there are various parameters. So I think there is a very large potential which is largely been ignored in this sector, and that has to be tapped, and the department is actually looking forward for the right tools and technologies which it can be nurtured further. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, IWA has been actually working on a lot of waterways, because transportation of goods on water is the biggest advantage that India can derive right now. If you look at many countries, there is a lot of transportation that happens on water. I mean, the goods movement. I think a lot of work has been done by IWA, but there's not too much of a progress in terms of converting some of these rivers into waterways. I think their industry can really help work with governments and actually develop this. So with this, I think I have exhausted my questions. Any questions from the audience at any of the panelists? You're most welcome. Sir.
Not a question, but suggestion for Genesys and other companies who are trying to create content in the urban areas. Ministry of Housing and Urban Development had constituted a committee and in 2020, and it had the members from across the departments and ministries, wherein the guidelines and the structure that how urban mapping should be taken up, including the data model structure.
So don't you think it will be more appropriate to consider that data model structure while you create your own content so that it can be leveraged by other agencies also, and the data model, they talk to each other. So I think this will be a good thing to say. TCPO had been heading it, and most of the states TCPOs have this data model structure. But if you're creating this kind of content, then it would be worth considering that data model structure, which the government has finalized after a lot of debates and deliberations. So I think this is one of the suggestions. Secondly, on blue economy, as I mentioned in my speech also, that the river profiling has never been done in the country. River mapping has been done, but not the profiling. So we did approach Ministry of Jal Shakti, Water Resources, and Survey of India had already taken up this program, and nobody knew what is the requirement and how it has to be taken up. So it took us about an year, and I'm sure Mr. Pathak is here, who was talking in, directly with CWC and various agencies, that what should be the modalities and what is the outcome required for profiling of the river. Because Survey of India has been mapping only up to the bed, but not under the bed. So I think this is the high time now the industry and the government agency, they need to work on blue economy also. Thank you.
Bathymetric service.
Yes.
Sri, I just
Yes.
want to comment on this
Please.
thing, basically. Thank you, sir, Girish sir. Let me tell you, the Genesys content program, we have very carefully studied the TCPO survey and the Survey of India guidelines for the data model. We 100% adhere to that. And let me tell you the practical problems we are also facing along with it. So now it is for the medium and small towns, and we have found that even for the large towns it is valid. Now, each and every feature, what we are following, there is a codification, there is the feature list, there is the data table, how much should be the width of what should be the primary key, what should be the foreign key. And based on that, we are preparing. Now, the cities themselves, each city in India, they are not actually sitting idle. They have created something. In whatever scale, the data is available with each of the cities, and they are actually not dependent on each other. However, the point you have brought in is very relevant, that when we create a content, and for that matter, any industry partner who are going to create this content for any city, uniformity is very important so that the data interoperability and integration becomes it's a plug and play. It should be like that. So what we found out, the codification for each of the features are very unique. And that should be acted as, and that is what we are talking to each of the cities. And then we find out each of these cities, they do have their own way of creating this data model. And they're right in their own sense. But this is the time now, with the help of Ministry of Urban Affairs, with the help of TCPO, which we are anyway talking, and also with the Survey of India, if this clear geo can go to all the cities, that they should all follow. So by that time this content is ready, it can directly, and we can save a lot of time, and it will not be another project to follow. Thank you so much, sir.
We'll just take one last question because we are running out of time and we have to break for lunch. And all of us are available for your questions during the lunchtime and even afterwards. Sorry, I'll have to give it to him because he has raised his hand first. Sorry.
Of course, this is not a major comment, but the appreciation for the blue economy, what you have suggested for the terrestrial, the water systems. But the Sagarmala and other projects recently which have been taken up focuses more on deep ocean, where manganese nodules and then hydrates are the future of power and then economy. As of now, of course, as geoscientists, we know we used to go for deep cruise and then collect the samples. But now I'm just thinking, after certain depth, the light does not penetrate, and we have a problem of deep sea modeling. So can anybody throw a light on how do we collaborate with Sagarmala, and where particularly Indian surrounding the Indian continent, the oceans, where the country is heading towards exploring the possibilities of harnessing the very powerful billions of voltage of hydrate nodules and then the energy and then manganese nodules, very economic value content. Thank you.
I am really sorry. I think we will not be able to answer this question right away. I think we will have to do a lot of research. I think we should all agree that geospatial industry as such has not really worked much on blue economy. And I think this is an area of a lot of opportunity and possibilities that we can explore. So I'm now, it has been a wonderful session, and all the panelists have given a lot of information about how they are planning to take more and more work and how they are going to contribute to the industry growth. Being a services and projects company head, I cannot leave without saying one thing, because we are talking about how the industry has to contribute towards growth and also meeting that particular numbers that are projected. It is just before the lunch, it is food for thought that I would like all of you to leave with. I think the industry is shooting itself in its foot. I think the industry is not valuing their own services and the capabilities and the skills. We are going for quoting ridiculous prices and just picking the orders and works, not able to execute. That's probably one of the reasons why we don't have, forget about the unicorns, even 100 crore companies in geospatial, Indian companies who have actually executed work. Of course, sorry, there are some, but there could be 50. But we probably have 5 or even less. I think this food for thought, and we have to value our services and the projects that we are doing. We have to do it at a minimum value. Thank you very much. It has been a great session, and any questions we are all ready to answer during the lunch break or afterwards as well. Thank you. Thank you, Sakshi.
Thank you to all our esteemed panelists for such an engaging session on what the policy holds and the way forward, as well as insights into their respective expertise and offerings for the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now request everyone to proceed to the foyer area for lunch. We will resume the summit with the next session at 2:45 due to paucity of time. Thank you.